Describes as an hour-long tirade. We've got the recording, and we want to warn you here. It's pretty harsh. Listen.
We have shit for poor people. Who buys our shit? So healthy. Now that I know what the in it, even in a can of soup, I look at it. Look at meat, bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer.
In the lawsuit, the former employee also alleges Bally made racist remarks about Indian workers, calling them idiots. When he reported the tirade to company management, he was terminated in retaliation, allegedly, for complaining about that alleged behavior. Campbell's has not confirmed the statements to NBC, but did say that if they were made, they do not reflect the company's values.
And be heard there on that recording. And like you mentioned, this goes on for a while. And I want you to listen to more of that conversation.
Everybody thinks our recipes are like crown jewels or not. They're important, but
no,
it's the process. It's the process that makes the food. You know, the ingredients are in the back of the can.
All right, shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to give all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah Kodesh. Double honors to the apostles and elders at GMS who taught me this truth. Salutations to the elect, feeding the sheep of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai with sincerity and truth. I'm the brother Barak. Lord willing, this will be another edifying lesson. And, through the Spirit, I just want to talk about, this man, how wicked he is, right? This devil Esau, his food system. You have to be very mindful of what you eating, right? Goes what? These people don't eat their own food, right? These people don't use the products they make, right? You got the Campbell soup. One of the executives saying you don't eat that shit, right? Why? Because they know what the damage it does to the consumers, right? Nobody give a fuck about no Campbell soup anymore. Why? Because people figuring out that this is bottom of the barrel shit. Now, people are starting to figure out how wicked this devil is. The type of shit he be putting in the food, right? You have companies years and years ago putting aborted fetal matter into the food as flavor enhancers. You got people putting MSG. You have scientists measuring the width of the food, and the width and the size of the food, so it can be consumed in one bite, make it more malleable. These devils, they do everything, man. This is why you gotta be mindful of the food that you're eating, right? Don't be out here eating McDonald's. Don't be out here eating what is it? Like Panda, what's that? What PF Chang's, whatever you call these from Asian, these Moabite buffets, right? Because what do they do? These people do? They put pigeons in their meat, rats, right? They don't give a fuck because at the end of the day, they're not eating the food, right? They're just trying to cut cost, right? This book of Proverbs 25 and 28, it says, "He hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city and is broken down and without walls," right? So when you're out here eating all these different, foods, right, you can't control yourself, because, the food tastes so good, and then you realize, oh shit, this actually has, pork, right? These food have pork. These food have crustaceans. You gotta get rid of that shit, right? Esau, he hides certain things in the food, so you can't, you can't possibly know everything.
right? But, this devil, man, you see how manipulative he is. He's using 3D printed meat, right? He's putting food colorings in the foods. And these are some of these these things can really fuck up your body, right? While we're here, you still have to take care of yourself, even if you're you are willing, we get those spiritual bodies, we still have to take care of exercise, right? Eat the proper foods, right? Because those things are also good for your spirit, right? Even I believe it was Daniel. He did a certain fast with I believe it was vegetables, right? There's a time and a place for everything, right? Sometimes you don't want to be eating too much in excess, right? But just you got to be mindful of what you're consuming, right? These devils, they don't even what else? I believe you got to watch out what you watch as well, right? Because this devil set it up to where he has a system. Every time you log on an app like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook Reels, he has it perfectly designed to where you click certain buttons, you continue to scroll, and then they will literally track your eye movement. They'll track how long you've stayed on a post or particular topic, how many times you searched X and Y and Z topic up, whose profile you keep looking at, right? They will do whatever it takes to keep you on their apps, which, you don't want to be on there for too often, right? Because these are worldly ass things, right? Nobody give a fuck. You should have no fucks given about these other people's lives, right? And that's the spirit a lot of people are on, right? So let's bring that out. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 24 and 19, and it says, "Fret not thyself because of evil men, neither be thou envious at the wicked, for there shall be no reward to the evil man. The candle of the wicked shall be put out." Right? You see all these rich ass motherfuckers, flexing money, flexing how many women they got, flexing cars, flexing how many people they shot at, how many people they killed, how many people how many bitches they stole from other men, right? How many how many properties they have. Who gives a fuck about these people, man? These people are going to be wasted. They're going to be nothing but ashes, man. Nothing but, those nukes are going to be so high, it's just going to, leave them to dust, man. Right? It's going to incinerate them. Who gives a shit about these people, man? You're going to get those new bodies. Right? So,
something that CIA taught me called the Seneca effect, or the Seneca cliff. It's this mathematical model that shows that success and growth happens slowly, but collapse and decline happens very quickly, very much like climbing up the side of a mountain to a cliff and jumping off the other side. When you think about the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Soviet Union, these are classic examples of a Seneca cliff, something that took centuries to build and a matter of just a few years to utterly and completely collapse. In all three of those cases, the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Soviet Union, you see very similar trends that you're seeing right now in the United States.
This book of Proverbs 22 and 3, it says, "A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." Right? So, that guy in the clip, he was saying, there's a trend that happens before a collapse of society, right? It doesn't just Your society's built up. It keeps building, right? And then what happens? It collapses, right? All of a sudden it tanks, you know. Like somebody, like similar to like a rug pull, if you know, in like a stock market, or when somebody just, tanks the market. It's the same thing, And why is that going to happen? Is because in 1 hour, America will be destroyed. It's all it's going to take. All that building up, right? All that hard labor, all those skyscrapers, all those grocery stores and cars and mansions and whatever this place has to offer, all that shit will be incinerated within 1 hour, right? So now is not the time to be fucking around. You gotta be careful what you're watching, what you're listening to, right? What you're eating. But most importantly, what you're listening to, what you're watching, because, you could be listening to some fucking false-ass prophets, and you wouldn't even know, right? And then you go, you have these people out here thinking, this earth is still going to be around for another 1,000 more years. These people, they don't want the Lord to come back, right? These people like it here. And we don't fucking like it here. Right? That's why you gotta keep doing this work. And the Lord is gonna speed things up. Lord willing, Keep your eyes single. Don't be going around doing all these different things, hanging around unbelievers, going to, Why? Because the Lord said, if you were lukewarm, He's going to spit you out of His mouth. Right? Last thing you want to be is this fucking people, they know, eating these abominable things are wrong. They know, following this false doctrine is wrong. They know committing adultery is wrong, and they're still doing it anyway because, they're still out here sodomizing each other, still out here having sex on the Sabbath, still out here taking other people's wives, right? All because they listen to some false ass prophet, man. That's why you gotta be very mindful of what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're eating, what you're seeing. Shalom.